Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
A very warm welcome to all of you today. If you're visiting here at Queen of All Saints, my name is Father Kevin Huber. I'm the Parish Administrator, and with my dad, Deacon Richard Huber, and with our associate, Father Frank Torres, and our Deacon Mark Pleiss, I want to wish all of you a very blessed and very joyful Easter season. So this June, I will celebrate my 20th anniversary of priesthood ordination. And I have to tell you that I have waited 20 years to say this, but I'm happy to say it today. I participated in the coolest funeral ever. It's true. 2 months ago, in fact today, I participated in a funeral in North Judson. It was a really tragic funeral. It was a young man who was 52 who died very suddenly. And I really was unsure about what was going to happen and what the kind of emotions that were going to be there. But I have to say, it really was one of the coolest funerals ever. Now, it all started very ordinarily. We gathered on the day of the funeral at the funeral home to offer the prayers of transfer of the body to the church. And then there was a very solemn procession from the funeral home into the church. And we celebrated the Mass of Christian burial. And after the Mass was finished, the pallbearers came and they gathered around the body, and we began to process out of the church. And then, as we made our way down the stairs of the church, there it was, the coolest thing ever. It was, in fact, are you ready? A Harley-Davidson hearse trailer. It was very, very cool. 2 wheels. The entire trailer was made of glass and framed in black metal. And the funeral director motioned and directed the pallbearers to come, and they slid the casket into the trailer. And then, even better, the trailer was attached to a late model Harley-Davidson electric glide. It was amazing. And so, I was all excited. Father Frank was so excited, he took a photograph with his camera. And so, we're all lined up. The funeral director lines up the entire funeral cortege and the lead car, and then there's the hearse, and then behind the hearse is myself, or actually an old fire truck, and then myself, and lots of people. And this young man who died, he was the owner of the Wooden Nickel bar in North Judson. And so as we drove through the town, we passed by the Wooden Nickel, and there in front of the Wooden Nickel were 4 other people who were on Harley-Davidsons. And so as they saw us drive by, they revved up their engines, and then they jumped into the procession. And I was driving down the road. We had 20 miles to go till we got to the cemetery. I'm like, this is amazing! This is the coolest thing ever! And people were staring as we drove by. It was amazing. Now, I realized that all this is kind of unconventional. This is not something that you would normally see. And the truth of the matter is that I had kind of formed my opinions. I knew beforehand that this man, whose name is Dwayne, that Dwayne had it was himself a Harley-Davidson owner, and I had kind of developed my own thoughts and my own opinions. But I have to tell you that it all changed, because I saw the profound, tremendous admiration that his friends and comrades had for him. And they demonstrated that reverence, they demonstrated that respect, and they paid Dwayne tremendous honor. And what I thought I was going to see was something that was very, very extraordinary. Now, if you stop to think about it, the very same thing is happened to Mary Magdalene and the other Mary on the day that their Lord was raised from the dead. Because they were going to the tomb, as we hear in Matthew's Gospel, and they were probably anticipating an ordinary scene. They had left right before dawn, so it was still dark, and they were traveling on their way. And what else is a tomb but lifeless, and still, and quiet? And they knew, because they were there when they laid him in the tomb, that there was a big stone that had been rolled over the tomb. So they knew what they were going to experience was going to be, quite frankly, very ordinary. But notice what happens, because there's some amazing things. They're on their way to the tomb, and then all of a sudden, as Matthew tells us, there is an earthquake. It is not a seizure. It is not not some kind of small shaking. Matthew tells us it is a great earthquake. And then an angel of the Lord descends from heaven and approaches them. And what does he do? He shoves back the stone. And he clearly is an important person because Matthew tells us his appearance was like lightning and his clothing was as light as snow. And it was so powerful the guards were shaken for fear of him. And notice what the angel says. This is an amazing thing. All of this stuff is going on. These women have experienced all of these things. I have no idea that they could have anticipated this. And what does the angel say? Do not be afraid. Whatever. Of course they're going to be afraid. And the angel goes on, I know that you're seeking Jesus the crucified, and he's not here. He's been raised, just as he said he would. Come and see the place where he lay. The angel invited Mary Magdalene and the other Mary into the tomb to see what was really going on, and they discovered that he was not there. And then the angel says, then go quickly and tell his disciples, he has been raised from the dead, and he is going before you to Galilee, and there you will see him. Behold, I have told you all of this. This is more than they could possibly ever have imagined. And if that's not enough, they're on their way back to Galilee to talk to the upper room, they're on their way back to Jerusalem, to the upper room to talk to the disciples and to tell them what they'd seen. And then all of a sudden, Jesus appears to them. And what is the first thing that Jesus says? Do not be afraid. And then Jesus goes on to repeat what the angel had said. Go tell my brothers to go to Galilee, and there they will see me. My friends, these are extraordinary things. When Mary Magdalene and the other Mary thought they were going to see, they didn't see it all. They saw so much more than they could have anticipated, something extraordinary. Now you and I have to pay attention to something that is not said. Because there is an ingredient in this whole story that makes every bit of difference. Jesus fulfilled his mission. He did everything that was asked of him by the Father. He was born of the Virgin Mary. And he called people to repentance. And he proclaimed the kingdom or the reign of God. And he suffered and he died and he was buried, just as he said he would be. And he rose from the dead, just as he said he would. But there's one thing that makes a difference in this whole story. Mary Magdalene and the other Mary chose to believe. That's what makes it different for you and for me. That's what made it different for them. They believed that Jesus was raised from the dead. They believed that they saw the angel. They believed that they saw Jesus standing before them. They didn't have to. They could have dismissed it all as some kind of figment of their imagination, that they were really stressed out. But the reality is that they believed, and they chose to believe. And that belief is what propelled them to go and tell the disciples. That belief is what propelled them to embrace the resurrected Jesus. Because the truth of the matter is, their choice to believe changed their lives, changed the disciples' lives, and if the truth be told, for every one of us here today, their choice to believe has changed our lives. Because we are here to celebrate Jesus raised from the dead. My friends, you and I are all here for different reasons. Some of you are here today out of a sense of obligation. Some of you are here today because you like the ritual. Some of you are here today because you are with your family. Some of you are here today because you have struggles in your life and you don't know where else to turn. But for every one of us here in church today, we have one choice to make that will absolutely change everything. If you and I want to make a difference in our lives, if you and I want to make a difference in our spouses' lives, if you and I want to make a difference in our children's lives, if you and I want to make a difference in our grandchildren's lives, If you want to make a difference in your home, in your community, in the world, then all you must do today is choose to believe. Choose to believe that Jesus Christ rose from the dead. Choose to believe that He fulfilled the Father's will. Choose to believe that He loved you. And the reality is that all of us today hear the same message. Jesus Christ is risen today. We hear it over and over and over again in our liturgy. Jesus Christ is risen today. And my friends, you have power to make a difference if you choose to believe. If you choose to believe. You know, just as I didn't think that this funeral could get any cooler, it did. We arrived at the cemetery, and it was a cold, damp February day. And there were about 100 of us, and we all gathered there in the cemetery around the grave. And there were cows in the background, and they were mooing. And there was this cold, brisk wind, and we all gathered around the grave, and we prayed the prayers over the grave, and we prayed the prayer of committal, and commended Dwayne to God's loving care. And then there was one of the men who had ridden in on a Harley, and he approached Dwayne's son, and he knelt down, and he took from his boot a spur. And he presented this spur to Dwayne's son in memory of his comrade and in memory of his comrade's last ride. And my friends, there wasn't a dry eye in that cemetery. It was amazing. And my friends, the lesson here is simple. What we come to think of as ordinary can be very, very extraordinary if we just choose to believe.